Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Katie and welcome to another bookish adventure. Today we're going to be talking about some of the most intimidating books on my TBR. So this is only owned books right now. We are not branching into everything because I have so many books that are on my TBR that I don't actually own. So most of these are going to be because they're just hefty. A couple fall into the same category. I have 9 books to go through, but a couple fall into that same reason. I'll get this out now. One of the biggest reasons for a few of them and a lot of other books on my bookshelves do come down to size, especially with first books. But let's get into it. First up, One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. There's Somebody in Your House by Stephanie Perkins. So this sort of genre, crime, thrillers, mystery, just psychological thrillers, that is a genre I have never really tapped into. To watch, it is something I absolutely love, and it is something that I could just watch for ages. I love it, it is so good, but it is not something that I have a natural gravity to when reading. I don't really like the gore, I don't really like or horror aspect. Horror is a genre I'm never going to read. I've only read one book which is technically cast as a crime book, and that is Dead Simple by Peter James, and that is his first book in that series. I really loved it. It was so good. It was fast paced. There were multiple point of views, different characters like the suspects. It was just so good, and it's based locally where I live, which was really cool. So it very much reminded me of Dan Brown and, you know, that Robert Langdon series. It was very much like that, and I read that a good few years ago, and I did kind of trigger something for maybe I might go back there, but never have. And then last year I read my first Stephen King book. I read The Shining, and that made me think, you know what, I do think I really want to get into that either psychological thriller aspect. So I mentioned it to Alice and she rattled off a whole list of books. One of Us is Lying is included in that list that she mentioned, and then she got me, I think these were for my birthday, she got me these. So I am pretty excited to venture into this, but at the same time a little kind of apprehensive. Next up, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So yikes. I read her original trilogy and I did really like it. The problem I have is that this storyline doesn't really appeal to me. It is set in the same universe, the same world, and it is about this a bunch of criminals who come together to pull off this heist. And it's a duology, so you know, yay, only 2 books. But it has just not appealed to me in the slightest, but I see it everywhere and I see how ridiculously popular it is. Recently, I have been thinking more and more about getting back into her. I'm really interested in her newer books that are coming out. I have now recently read, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a 3rd book to go in this duology. I don't know, but yeah, it's just never really appealed to me, which I don't know, I just feel like I should. My best friend Alice, she absolutely loved them, and I'm just, part of me thinking, why haven't I wanted to? And I think also the other thing I found intimidating is I really enjoyed that other series. What if I don't with this? But I am going to do it. Gavin did pick this as part of this year's TBR, so I may well read it this year. We have another one, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So this is another one that is just not my genre. Dystopian futures just don't do it for me, really. I think unless there's a real fantasy based element to it, it just isn't my thing. I still haven't seen the films. I think because I was so on the fence as to whether or not I wanted to read them, and the hype around them was just insane, and I do not go for books when the hype is just, I kind of put them on a back burner and I come back to them. I'm like, The only reason I am reading The Hunger Games is because my best friend, who doesn't read, this is her favorite series. This trilogy is her favorite. She loved the films. This is the sole reason I am reading these, because she absolutely loves them, and if she, who does not read, loves this, then I'm like, well, it's got to be something good. I think I've also been very aware that they would emotionally break me. I remember seeing these in the hallway at high school as recommended reads for my sort of age, and this was one of them, and I was aware of the emotional connection to it, and that did not appeal to me at all. As if you're not aware of what The Hunger Games is about, which would be nuts, it is this awful dystopian future where people are picked from different districts to fight against each other, and then it is then trying to take on that system, and it is just brutal and nuts and emotional. Every year I say I will read these, and every year I don't. I think because it is just something that just not interests me whatsoever, I need to be in the right frame of mind to finally pick them up. Guilty Pleasures by Lauren K. Hamilton is next up on the list, and you may be thinking, well, this isn't a very big book, this seems very lovely. There are 27 books in this series. I will just let that sit there for a moment. 27 books, and she has no intentions of slowing down. So I found these books, good God, so long ago, so long ago, like college years, 10 years ago. I came across these in Tesco's and they were dirt cheap, and it was like 3 for like £12 or something, some ridiculous offer that they do. And I bought a bunch of books, and whenever I then saw these in Tesco, I then kind of picked up. So I've got 3 of these books, and just the sheer size of them is just really, I mean, do you need 27 books, lady? Do you? So if you don't know what this is about, which is probably unlikely because I think these came out 90s, maybe late 80s, I think there is a very, I want not niche audience for this, but it is about Anita and her gifts, as it were, I guess. She lives in a parallel universe to ours where the paranormal exists and everyone knows about it. It is not a secret. Vampires, werewolves, shapeshifters, whatever else is around, people know about. And it deals with her dealing with her abilities and doing her job. I think she's a PI, don't quote me on that, but she solves mysteries, and I know she gets involved in a romantical way with the vampire. I think there's like a love triangle at some point. But one of the biggest things about this book is that they are a little bit naughty, and one of the biggest criticisms is that as the series has gone on, it has just felt like just erotic novels, not what they were. So I kind of did a little bit of digging as to whether or not I really even wanted to contemplate doing this, and I have decided to read the first 10 books. I'm going to go for the first 10 because that seems to be at the height of where they were really good, because once you kind of go from 10 onwards, that's where the reviews seem to really get mixed and really start dipping, and people just saying it is literally just her like having sex or whoever having sex, which, don't get me wrong, I am not averse to that, but come on, I need some plot, not just dick. So I decided, yeah, I'm gonna go for the 10, and then if I ever do want to come back to it, I will probably Kindle them. These books are, you know, start, middle, end. Each book has their own whole story. However, it is a continuous plot. It is a continuous thing, so it's not a book that you can just read as a standalone. Speaking of authors who like to go expanding universes, so there isn't necessarily the book that I am intimidated by, it is more the author. So Cassandra Clare has written the Shadowhunter universe, and if you're not familiar with that, that is, the Shadowhunters are people, they are Nephilim, half angels who fight demons, and they are these downwilders, so vampires, werewolves, fae, sure there's probably something else in there that I can't remember. And the first series, The Mortal Instrument, follows some shadow hunters doing what they do. So the next trilogy of books you have is the prequel to that, and that has more of a historical fiction vibe, The Infernal Devices. And then you now have the newer books that are coming out. You have various spin-offs like everywhere. So the extent of the universe kind of intimidates me, but more than anything, I just don't like this book. I've read the first 2 of the Mortal Instruments, City of Bones and City of Ashes, and I just don't like it. And that is what is heavily putting me off trying to plow forward, because this is a book that is just, the love and the hype for this is just insane, and I don't get it, I don't see it. So I've decided to do the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments, then do the prequels, and then finish the last in the series of Mortal Instruments. And I hope by then I'm like, yeah, I really want to keep going, because the newer books seem to really interest me, and the world she has built really interests me. This is like, I have a love-hate relationship, whereas I love the idea, I hate the execution, but I am trying. Lord knows I am trying to persevere with this. Next up, I probably should have read this already, but forgive me, The Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. So I just remember as a kid, books not really being a thing and a massive thing on my radar, and it's books like these and Percy Jackson that I've never read, and this kind of comes under my books I should have read as a child shelf, and I have put off reading his dark materials for a long time. Even the same with Percy Jackson, in my head I've always said, oh yeah, I really want to pick them up, I really want to pick them up, and I just have this big kind of, oh god, I'm kind of scared to pick up Philip Pullman, and I don't know why. And then obviously he's released his newer books, I'm like, I really want to do this. We've had films, we've had the new TV series, and everything is telling me to read this damn series, and again, I'm just slightly hesitant. And I think it's the, oh my god, what if I don't like it and everyone else does? This has been one of the picks that Gavin has picked for me for This Is TBR, and I really want to push myself to do this. Next up, we have The Stylus Seat by Erin Morgenstern, and I've been waiting for this book like, oh my goodness, way too many years. 2 things put me off about this book, maybe 3. It's quite big. 1, I've waited so long for this book. I'm now like, oh my god, I've waited so long and now it's here. I think maybe 8 years or something. Alice read The Night Circus and is one of her favourite books, and I read The Night Circus and I was like, oh my god, like, it is just beautiful. I love how it's written, I love everything about it, and I've always wished that she had more books. And finally, she has a book! And now I'm like, oh god, I'm not sure I want to read it. The other thing that puts me off about this is the plot is kind of vague and ambiguous, and what? So I think I know what the plot is. We follow a guy who finds a door, but he decides not to open it, and then he discovers a book that narrates what would have happened if he'd gone through said door, and that is all I know, and I think that is the plot, and I'm sure there's more to it. I mean, I read The Neverending Story recently, and that was about a book that was narrating a story but was being read at the time, but it's just kind of vague and what? And it's been so long since I've read her work, and I am equal parts excited and equal parts kind of, oh god, at the same time. And just, I mean, look at it, it's just beautiful. How could I not read it? But yeah, part of me is like, oh my god, like it's finally here, and now I'm a little bit reluctant. The final book I have for you, Strange the Dreamer by Lani Taylor. So aside from size, because look at that thing, I read her previous series, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing, it was so cool, and then this came out and I was like, why do you need to be this big? Also, I don't really know what the plot is. I read the synopsis so long ago, but I think this was just an automatic goes on my wish list because it's Lani Taylor, and I have this weird thing with authors sometimes where I love like the first lot of books I read by them, and then for some unknown reason I never pick up anything else they've ever written. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm worried that I'm not going to enjoy them as much as I did as the others. I have the same thing with Melinda Salisbury, who did the Sin Eaters trilogy. It's a weird thing I have that I need to get past. I know that this story focuses around this mystical legend or something of like this god slayer who potentially slayed some god, this place called Weep, and some warriors, and there's a lady who this guy sees in his visions or in his dreams that he's never met. I have a very vague knowledge and understanding of the hell the series is about, but it is more just the sheer heft of it that has made me like, oh my god, because for a first book, is this just necessary? And then obviously you have the second and it's just like, no, it's really not necessary. I do really want to tackle this, I really do. I definitely will do this on audiobook, I think, to help me just get through the sheer heft of it. But yeah, I just think I remember reading the synopsis and just being like, I really don't get what it's about, but my love for her storytelling kind of outweighed the confusion. So that is it. That is the books that intimidate me so far on my shelf. So that is it for today's video. Those are just some of my more intimidating books that I have to read. The list is endless. These are just the ones I own, and even still there are still more. I had to try and pick under 10 just to do it. I think a lot of them do come down to size, if I'm honest, and my weird aversion to reading the next series of books by an author. That seems to just be some weird mental thing block that I have. I really don't know. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button. As always, comment below, tell me some of your more intimidating books. Have you got the same thing as I do? Is it just like an aversion to a genre? Is it size? Is it author? Do you share any of the similar weird habits that I have? If you're new, then click the subscribe button and you'll never miss a video, and of course don't forget, ding the bell. I hope you had a good weekend, and I hope you have a great week to come. I will see you on Thursday.